The chamber smells of iron and roses. A single candle flickers against stone walls, its flame bending like a frightened servant. You are barefoot on cold marble, silk gown clinging heavy with sweat. In your belly, a life stirs. But in this palace, that life is not your own. Outside the door, men whisper prayers not for your safety, but for the survival of the dynasty. A silver bowl of blood-red wine waits at your bedside, laced with herbs you dare not question. The midwives' hands are soft, yet their eyes are steel. They will obey the king's command, not your cries. Tonight, you are not a woman. You are a vessel, chained to a throne by the child you carry, and in the silence between heartbeats you wonder, how many queens before you bled the same way, unseen and unnamed? The marriage feast is barely over when the whispers begin. Courtiers press their lips to goblets of wine, murmuring predictions. How long until she conceives? In the royal court of the 1700s, a queen's worth is not measured by her beauty, nor her intelligence, nor her kindness, but by the swell of her belly. You are led through gilded halls lined with portraits of women who came before you. Each face looks the same, though painted with different jewels and crowns. Their stories reduced to a single achievement, bearing heirs. The air smells of incense and burning wax, heavy with the weight of expectation. You are a bride, yes. But more importantly, you are a womb with a crown. At night, the king arrives in your chamber not with tenderness but with purpose. Candles sputter, casting long shadows against silk draperies as the palace waits for a sign that its future has been secured. Every month that passes without blood is recorded like a small victory. Every crimson stain on the bedsheets is a failure, whispered through the corridors by servants who never meet your eyes. The pressure is relentless. Physicians prescribe strange diets of honey, milk, and bitter herbs to balance the humors. Old women slip charms into your pillows, whispering that sleeping only on your left side ensures a son. Priests remind you that conception is both sacred duty and divine command, urging you to pray for fertility with the desperation of a sinner begging for salvation. And through it all, you smile, you nod, you learn the ritual of silence. For to complain is to betray weakness. To resist is to insult the king, the court, the very kingdom that depends upon your womb. You are no longer simply a woman. You are the fragile bridge between dynasty and ruin. The moment a royal pregnancy is suspected, the palace transforms. Corridors echo with cautious steps, as though every sound might disturb the fragile life within. Midwives hover like silent guards, their hands always ready, their eyes watching. Every movement, even the air, feels thick with caution. You are told what to eat and what not to. Fresh fruits, warm milk, and broth steeped in herbs are placed before you. While certain foods are forbidden entirely, believed to cause miscarriage or deformity, every bite you take tastes of duty, not desire. Wine mixed with crushed pearls or ground metals is whispered to strengthen the child's bones, though it scrapes your throat with bitterness. Movement becomes ritual. You are forbidden from running, from dancing, from riding the horse you once loved. Some queens are not even allowed to climb stairs for fear the jolt might harm the unborn heir. Instead, you are carried in litters, veiled from the sun, as if the world itself has become too dangerous for your fragile state. Priests and physicians prescribe contradictory rituals, prayers at dawn, amulets tied around your waist, charms stitched secretly into your gowns. Some claim that sleeping under silk embroidered with gold-threaded lions will bring a strong son. Others insist that constant confinement keeps the womb pure, and always you are watched. A queen is never alone. Servants sleep on straw mats at your door. Midwives share your chamber. Even your dreams are not your own, for every murmur in your sleep is reported back to those who measure your loyalty by your obedience. The irony gnaws at you. They call you sacred, blessed, the vessel of the kingdoms, hope, yet you feel more like a prisoner wrapped in silk, guarded, managed, silenced. Your body, once your own, has become a stage for rituals you never chose. Nights are the hardest. When the corridors finally fall silent and only the candle by your bed remains, the truth presses down heavier than the silk quilts. You lie awake, one hand on your stomach, wondering whether the tiny spark inside you is truly yours or already claimed by the crown. Every smile you show the court feels borrowed, every laugh rehearsed. In whispered conversations, you hear yourself described not as a woman, but as the womb of the realm, a title that erases your name, your voice, your dreams, even in letters. From your family, there is little mention of you, only of the child to come. And so, you begin to divide yourself. Outwardly, you play the role of queen, patient and dutiful. Inwardly, you cling to fragments of identity, a scrap of poetry hidden in your sleeve, a song hummed quietly before dawn, a memory of the girl you once were before the crown weighed down your brow. But there is no escaping the burden. Every cough, every stumble, every shadow beneath your eyes becomes a matter of state. Ministers argue over your health as though you were livestock. Servants pray louder when you falter. The king watches you not with affection, but with calculation. There are moments of tenderness, fleeting and fragile, the first flutter of life within, the midwife's quiet nod that the child is strong. For a heartbeat, joy flickers. But it is joy you dare not show. If you smile, they will say you are proud. If you weep, they will call you weak. And so, you learn the cruelest ritual of all. Silence, to hold your tongue, to carry your grief and your hope in secret, to let your identity slip away until only the vessel remains, gilded on the outside, hollow within. The palace apothecary smells of crushed leaves and smoke. Rows of glass jars glimmer in the dim light, each filled with powders, oils, and dried roots said to guard against disaster. To the physicians, your body is a vessel to be engineered, adjusted, corrected. To the priests, it is a sacred altar where rituals must be performed to keep divine favor. To you, it is simply fragile, trembling under the weight of both. Midwives press bitter brews into your hands, infusions of sage to calm the womb, or concoctions laced with mercury and arsenic, believed to cleanse the blood. You choke them down, knowing they could heal or harm with equal ease. Sometimes, they leave you dizzy for days, your skin pale and lips trembling, but you are told it is worth it. Worth every sickness, every spasm if the dynasty survives. Herbs are sewn into silk sachets and hung above your bed to drive away evil spirits. Candles are lit at dawn and extinguished at midnight in precise rituals, as though timing itself might protect the unborn heir. Even your breath becomes ceremonial. You are told to inhale incense laced with resins that sting your throat to ensure the child draws strong lungs. The rituals are endless, a cycle of hope and fear, cure and poison. No one asks what you feel. Whether the bitterness makes your stomach burn, whether the smoke makes you cough until your ribs ache. Your discomfort is irrelevant. What matters is obedience, and always there is the unspoken fear. If the child falters, it will be your fault, not the herbs, not the poisons, not the endless experiments. You, your body, your failure. The candlelight flickers across the jars of powders and oils, and you cannot help but wonder, are these remedies meant to save your child, or to remind you that even in the most intimate corners of your life, you are never in control? The day your pregnancy is confirmed, your freedom quietly vanishes. The palace orders a chamber prepared, a gilded prison disguised as sanctuary. Heavy curtains smother the sunlight, the windows sealed to keep away ill winds. Incense coils in the air, mingling with the scent of damp stone, until every breath tastes of ash and perfume. You are told confinement is for your safety, yet the locks on the doors suggest otherwise. Guards patrol the corridor outside. Visitors are carefully chosen physicians, priests, and a handful of loyal servants. Friends vanish. Family is kept at a distance. Even the king visits less often, for your body now belongs not to him, but to the crown. Each day follows ritual monotony. You rise to prayers recited by midwives, sip from bowls of broth whose taste you no longer recognize, and lie down beneath embroidered sheets designed to ward off demons. Some queens were forced to remain reclined for months, forbidden to walk in case their steps shook the child loose. Others were made to sit upright all night, believing the posture would ensure the baby settled correctly in the womb. Silence rules the chamber. Servants move with padded feet. Whispers are kept low, as if a loud word might break you. At night, the quiet becomes unbearable. The tick of your heartbeat echoing in your ears. The walls pressing closer. The shadows in the corners deepening into watchful shapes. You are trapped in stillness, yet your mind runs wild. You imagine the world beyond the chamber. Festivals, hunts, dances, laughter, all barred to you. You imagine other queens, years before, staring at the same suffocating drapes, counting the same slow hours, whispering the same desperate prayers. And you realize confinement is not only about protecting the child, it is about controlling you, silencing you, binding you, reducing you to a single trembling function. A queen stripped of her court, her freedom, and her voice, until only the womb remains. In the silence of your chamber, fear takes root in every shadow. A flutter of pain in your belly, a sudden stillness where there should have been movement, and suddenly the air itself becomes suffocating. The midwives press cool hands to your skin, their whispers sharp, their prayers urgent. No matter what happens next, you already know one truth. If the child is lost, the fault will be yours. Miscarriage is never spoken of in gentle words. It is a failure, a curse, a sign of weakness. Some whisper that you were careless, that you moved too much, prayed too little, ate the wrong food. Others claim darker sins, that you carried bad blood, that God himself judged you unworthy. The court, which once praised you as sacred, now looks at you with suspicion, as though your body betrayed the kingdom itself. Stillbirths bring no mercy. The child may be laid in silk, blessed and buried with solemn rites. But your grief is not allowed to breathe. You are expected to weep in silence, then rise, smile, and try again. A queen's tears are private, things hidden behind veils. For in the eyes of the court, your mourning is irrelevant. What matters is the dynasty. Even when the child lives, survival is a fragile thread. Infants born too weak, too small, or not male enough can bring as much danger as a loss. Rumors grow like weeds. That the queen's womb is cursed. That another woman should take her place. That the king should seek an heir elsewhere. And so you walk each day with dread in your chest, every heartbeat heavy with the question, will this child live? Will I survive it? No amulet, no prayer, no ritual truly protects you, because beneath the silks and ceremonies lies a cruel truth. In this world, the queen's body carries all the blame, but never the power. When the midwife announces the birth, the chamber erupts not with joy, but with anticipation. All eyes turn not to you, the mother, but to the swaddled bundle in her arms. For in this moment, the child is not your child, it is the kingdom's future. And its worth is measured in one word: male. The obsession with sons is relentless. A boy is hailed as salvation, a living shield for the dynasty. Bells ring in cities, cannon fire salutes the heavens. Coins are struck with his image. Before he can even walk, ministers fall to their knees, thanking God for the continuation of power. You, exhausted and trembling, are praised as if you alone have bent the will of heaven. But if the cry of a daughter fills the chamber, the silence that follows is louder than any cheer. The courtiers' smiles tighten. The king's eyes grow heavy. There is no cannon fire, no celebration, only polite words wrapped in disappointment. Behind closed doors, whispers begin. Perhaps the queen's womb is weak. Perhaps she cannot bear a true heir. Your body becomes a battlefield. Each child you bear is weighed like coin on a scale. Sons bring glory, daughters bring uncertainty, and childless nights bring danger. The irony is cruel. The risk, the suffering, the blood and the pain are always yours, yet the judgment of worth is reserved for the child's sex, something beyond your control. You are reminded constantly that dynasties have fallen on this question alone. A single failure to produce a son can unravel alliances, topple treaties, even justify replacing a queen with another bride. The crown upon your head feels lighter than the invisible chain that binds you. The demand to deliver not just a child, but the right child. Childbirth in the palace is never private. The chamber fills with witnesses, midwives, priests, noblewomen, even courtiers pressed against the door, all eager to confirm that the birth is legitimate. Your cries are muffled beneath the chant of prayers and the scratching of quills recording every detail. There is no space for tenderness here. The birth of a royal child is a public performance. If the child lives and is declared healthy, the celebration erupts instantly. Courtiers bring gifts of gold, nobles pledge loyalty, and foreign ambassadors send messages of alliance. The court praises you as if you had conquered a war. For a few brief weeks, you bask in rare approval, the whispers silenced by the sound of bells and music echoing through the palace halls. But celebration is fragile. A single complication. A child born weak. A fever that spreads too quickly. A death in the crib can turn joy to suspicion. Suddenly, the same voices that praised you whisper darker things. Was it the queen's fault? Did she offend heaven? Has she been cursed? The joy of the court turns to cold silence, and once again, the blame settles like a weight upon your shoulders. Sometimes danger comes not from loss, but from success. A healthy son may inspire envy, even plots. Rival factions within the court see him as a threat to their power, and every smile hides a calculation. Poison in the nursery, accidents in the garden, whispers of betrayal. The dangers of politics follow even the smallest cradle, and you, the mother, remain trapped in the center of it all. Your own body, torn and weary from birth, is expected to rise quickly, to smile, to parade strength. Yet beneath the silks and ceremonies, you know the truth. Every birth in the palace is both a victory and a gamble, and your survival depends on which way the dice fall. The nursery is not only a place of lullabies, it is a battlefield. Behind embroidered curtains and carved cradles, rivalries fester like hidden wounds. Each child born to the palace carries not just blood, but ambition, and mothers quickly learn that their survival is tied to the survival of their offspring. Queens, mistresses, and concubines move like players on a chessboard, each guarding their child's future with quiet ferocity. A prince born to a favored mistress may threaten the position of the queen's son. A daughter, though dismissed publicly, might become a pawn in marriage alliances, wielded like a hidden blade. Every smile exchanged between women in the court conceals suspicion, for in truth, every mother sees the others as a rival. Whispers of sabotage drift through the palace like smoke. A midwife bribed to mishandle a birth, a servant accused of slipping herbs into a rival's food, a nursemaid dismissed under rumors of disloyalty. Sometimes these were only rumors, sometimes deadly truths, but always the fear lingered. For in the ruthless game of succession, even an infant's cradle was not beyond intrigue. The king, meanwhile, often fueled these rivalries. His shifting affections, a glance here, a touch there, could determine which child thrived and which withered in obscurity. His court encouraged competition, for a divided household kept women too busy warring among themselves to unite against him. And yet, beneath the silks and jewels, the women carried the same scars: sleepless nights, the weight of expectation, the endless fear of loss. They were trapped in the same gilded cage, each one clawing for a fragment of security in a world that demanded they sacrifice their bodies and their children for the throne. It was a silent war fought without swords, but the casualties were countless. Broken alliances, poisoned friendships, forgotten graves of children, who never lived to see their inheritance. Outwardly, you obey, you drink the bitter tonics, submit to the prayers, smile when commanded, but within, a different story stirs, for even in the tightest chains, women found ways to resist, not with swords or proclamations, but with whispers, secrets, and the smallest of choices. Some queens turned to charms forbidden by priests, hiding amulets sewn into their gowns, pressing talismans into the cradles of their infants, a gesture invisible to the court, but a defiance nonetheless, a declaration that their child's fate would not belong solely to the crown. Others placed quiet faith in midwives who slipped protective prayers into lullabies, shielding mother and child with songs no king could control. Defiance could also be found in knowledge. Women passed down hidden texts on healing, herbs, and protective rituals. Wisdom dismissed by male physicians but treasured in the secrecy of their chambers. A queen might request a particular flower for her chamber, knowing it symbolized fertility or endurance. A concubine might quietly refuse a draught she suspected to be poison, feigning obedience while protecting her child in silence. Even silence itself became an act of rebellion, refusing to show grief when a daughter was born, refusing to bow when accused of weakness. These small refusals unsettled the court, hinting at a will that could not be erased, and sometimes rebellion was nothing more than survival. To carry on breathing, to endure confinement without surrendering the soul, to keep a fragment of self hidden away from the relentless gaze of the crown. These women, painted in portraits as serene vessels, carried inside them a strength no artist's brush could capture. The courage to remain themselves, however quietly, in a world determined to erase them. When open defiance was impossible, influence flowed through the nursery. A queen who could not challenge her husband in council might instead shape the child who would one day inherit the throne, in whispered words by the cradle, in bedtime stories. Laced with lessons, in the choice of tutors and companions, she quietly molded the future. Many kings underestimated this. They saw their wives as vessels, their mistresses as ornaments, never realizing the subtle power of a mother's hand. A prince raised with his mother's values might favor her allies, adopt her beliefs, even remember her silent strength when deciding whom to trust. A daughter, though dismissed by the court, could be trained to wield charm as a weapon, her marriage alliance guided by her mother's quiet counsel. Even the act of survival became political. To keep a child alive in a palace of rivalries was to defy fate itself. Queens watched every nursemaid, tested every sip of milk, and listened for the smallest cough in the night. Protecting the child was more than love. It was strategy, for with a living heir came security. With security came influence. Some women mastered this subtle game so completely that they outlived rivals and even shaped generations. Their names may not appear in treaties, but their fingerprints lie hidden in the decisions of kings and princes who once learned their first lessons at their mother's knee. And yet, the cost was high. To bend one's identity into strategy, to turn love into politics, to view a child not only as a son or daughter, but as protection, it eroded something tender within. Many mothers wept in private, ashamed of the cold calculations they were forced to make. Still, they endured, because endurance itself was rebellion. History remembers the kings, their battles, their decrees, their endless hunger for heirs. But behind every monarch stood women whose strength was rarely written, whose struggles were disguised as obedience. Their legacy survives not in chronicles, but in the quiet patterns of survival that rippled through generations. Many of these women never spoke their rebellion aloud. They left no letters, no manifestos, no songs of protest. Their power lived in subtler forms. A tradition preserved, a child taught to question, a midwife's chant remembered in the dim corners of memory. Silence became their language, not of submission, but of endurance. And yet silence is fragile. Centuries later, historians must search between the lines, in marginal notes of forgotten chronicles, in portraits where the eyes reveal more than the painter intended, in rumors preserved by servants who whispered after the candles had been snuffed. The voices of these women echo faintly, but persistently, like threads that refuse to fray. Their legacy is not only survival, it is caution. For their stories remind us how power can twist even the most sacred act of creation into a tool of control. They reveal how easily bodies become battlegrounds, how quickly motherhood can be transformed from blessing to weapon. But their stories also carry hope. Hope in the resilience that cannot be extinguished. Hope in the truth that no matter how oppressive the ritual, the human spirit seeks a way to endure. And sometimes to bend history in silence, so the portraits remain. Serene women painted in oil, gazing outward with unreadable eyes. To most, they appear passive, untouched by rebellion. But to those who know the truth, those eyes are not empty. They are watchful, they are waiting. They carry within them a defiance that no ritual could erase. The stories you've just heard are not the ones carved into palace walls or celebrated in royal chronicles. They are the stories hidden behind closed doors, in chambers that smelled of candle smoke, sweat, and silence. Stories where queens and princesses became less than human, reduced to vessels, chained to rituals, and measured only by the children they bore. Across centuries, in gilded courts and dim stone castles, these rituals shaped the rhythm of royal life. Each pregnancy was not simply a private matter, but a public event, a test of loyalty, and a trial of obedience. In their struggle, these women revealed a truth history often conceals, that power does not only live in crowns or thrones, it also lives in the ability to endure, to survive, and to carry secrets forward. And while many of their names have been forgotten, their experiences remain etched in the very fabric of history. For every king who demanded heirs, there was a woman who paid the price. For every crown secured, there was a body sacrificed. But survival itself is a form of rebellion. These women endured, and in their endurance they left behind a legacy, stronger than silence, a legacy that reminds us that behind every glittering court, every triumph of dynasty, lies a shadowed room where lives were shaped by rituals we can barely imagine. The palaces remain, the thrones remain, but so do the echoes of forgotten wombs.